Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fizell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time for you folks who live on the Eastern Time Zone and out there in California. But again, thank you so much for watching. You know, you can find us on the radio at iacradio.media. That stands for In Christ Radio. And you can also find us on Fox. We are Fox News Radio right now. I'm very proud of that. You can find us on television, Channel 182 on Charter Communications and Abundant Television, found worldwide. And that's on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget the podcast, thenewscasters.com. And by the way, if you would love to send an email, I love hearing from you. It makes my day. Absolutely. Send an email anytime you want to Donna@donnasedge.com. That's Donna@donnasedge.com. We are at the Gadsden Mall, and one of my favorite places, Books A Million, and I'm the original geek. I'm just telling you. So this, of course, this would be fitting for me to be here today. But I just want to thank everybody for watching and definitely appreciate it. I have a wonderful guest with me right now. We're going to get her to tell you about her background. But first, before we get started with that, Terri LaPoint, and she is an author. She's a speaker. She's in the media world, and I can't wait to start digging for info. So I can't wait to start talking. Terri, tell us about your background. How'd you get started?
Well, I was a homeschool mom. I was going to be a missionary, and God said stay here in America, and I was raising my kids, homeschool mom. I was on my way to becoming a midwife. I was a midwife's assistant, labor doula, breastfeeding educator, and I started doing a little writing on the side, and I was following some stories. It was in 2014. I heard about a story out of Boston about a child being taken by Child Protective Services that shouldn't have been taken, and I thought, this is crazy. Child Protective Services, DHR, is about protecting children from horrible parents. What's going on here? And the more I started digging into it and writing about it, I thought, is this a threat to normal families? And somehow the editor of Health Impact News got a hold of me, found my stories, and said, we are going to start a division called medicalkidnap.com. Would you like to investigate these stories for me? And I said, yes, because I want to know what's happening. I want to know what is going on, because something's not right. None of us had the slightest idea what we were getting into. And so for 4 years, I was their lead investigative reporter, and I covered hundreds of stories from all over the country.
You know, I spoke with you about this a few days ago, and we had some neighbors who were absolutely fabulous. We were growing up in Chehaw Acres in Oxford, Alabama. That's where I'm from. And so just a fabulous place to be from. And we had some neighbors, Mr. and Miss Parnell, were the most awesome. As a matter of fact, I used to wish they were my parents. They were wonderful folks, could not have kids. She was a diabetic. They wouldn't let them adopt. And I never could understand that. They said because of health reasons, they were not able to adopt. And I'm going to tell you what, they would have been awesome parents. So what's the criteria these days?
The system is looking for making money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bottom line. The system is looking for making money. It is all about the money. It's sad.
Money, right?
Right. If you hear the best interest of the child,
Ooh,
they use that all the time. And you know where that term came from, right?
No, tell us.
Hitler used that term. But they use it in family court all the time, and it's nothing could be further from the truth.
Absolutely. Tell us about this book, because you need to find, I believe it's probably here. You can order it through
Books A Million, booksamillion.com. Mm-hmm. Yep. So Voices That Will Not Be Silenced. This mother here, she's a young mother, and her little baby was taken by Child Protective Services, never should have been taken. She had gone out of town for a 3-day weekend to visit her cousins, and Child Protective Services got wind of it and came and knocked on the grandparents' door. She left the baby with the grandparents because she had a sniffle, and left the baby with the grandparents. They lived there. They were, they're grandparents. They take care of the baby. And so they said, well, we've gotten word that she has abandoned her baby. And their grandparents were like, no, she didn't abandon, no, not at all. And they got her on the phone. She said, I'll be on the next plane home. And she actually was, but it was too late. They already took the baby. They showed up with police and all of that, and took the baby for abandonment. And the corruption that follows is actually the first few chapters in this book are very triggering to people who have dealt with child protective services or family court because it is so common. And that's some of the feedback that I'm getting is that this is so much their story. It sounds insane. For those of us who haven't been through the system, you're going to read it and like, this can't happen. This is America. How can this be happening? But for those who have been through it, they're like, yeah, that happened to me. Yeah, that's what they did.
I have a friend I know it happened to. Mm-hmm. First thing I thought of was our neighbors, Mr. and Miss Parnell, the most wonderful folks on earth. And I see right here a knock on the door. That's pretty telling right there. That has to be the dreaded knock on the door.
They had no idea. They had no idea. And they're like, here's this show of force with the police and the social worker and everybody on their doorstep. And they're saying, we need the baby. And they're like, why? What? They didn't realize even though they were a military family and fought hard for this country. I mean, her stepfather has a Purple Heart. And sacrificed everything for this country. But yet, the Fourth Amendment says that they have to have a court order or a warrant in order to take a child or to seize property, to seize anything. But they didn't. And that happens all the time in America. And so what this story shows is something that's very, very common. This child was adopted to strangers. The parental rights were not terminated because a twist. Her mother, Kathy Hall, is an angel mom. Now, are you familiar with that term? Angel moms, angel parents are those who have lost a child or a family member to an illegal alien. They were killed by an illegal alien or an illegal immigrant, to use a more proper term, I guess, an illegal. And so the mother was killed, and the family was never able to get the child back.
I want to mention this. They just reminded me, Joe Muggs is here. Joe Muggs Coffee, you've got to try it out. They have, if you like me, now all it takes is just this little bit right here, but they also have some fruit drinks that you can choose from too. We'll be talking about that a little bit more. Okay, so we're talking about your book, Voices That Will Not Be Silenced. And I have Terri LaPoint with me right now. We're talking about this, this comic. Get the chocolate, by the way, and I also have pies here, so check that out too. So we'll give it just a second. But yeah, go ahead and check out all those great things. Okay, so it's not so. I mean, this is like I can't believe this is happening in the United States. And that seems to be that was actually that family's response.
They're like, how can this be happening? We're going to go to court and everything's going to be straightened out. They're going to settle it and it's going to be all fixed when we go to court. What they didn't realize was that this judge in Arkansas literally does more adoptions than any other judge in the state of Arkansas. Does tons of them, and they
making a lot of money.
Yes, a significant amount.
I'm thinking of Man Eubank. My friend followed the money. That's where I got that from her. And
yes,
so you can
big time.
Money, you find out what's going on.
Right.
So it does sound like a moneymaker, and that's when I start getting suspicious.
Right, because thanks to the Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997, that is Hillary Clinton's baby. When she talks about how she helped the children, that's what she's talking about. Like helping herself to the children. Yeah, anyway, so
and Bill.
Everything that you could think that may imply, it does. It sounds so nice. The Adoption and Safe Families Act. We're going to get children out of foster care that are languishing in foster care. They've had these horrible, abusive parents, and we're going to give them these nice forever homes, and we're going to reward that. What it does instead, though, is it rewards states to the tune of like sometimes half of the state budget. Is federal money coming in for taking children. They only get this stream of money if they take the child, not if they leave the child in the home or work with the family or do some restoration things, and if they place them in foster care with strangers and they adopt them out to strangers. It doesn't, if the family gets...
Okay, so I'm tweaking this. Okay, why strangers? So you can't know what
that's the way ASFA is written. If they go to family members, if a family member adopts them out, they don't get that bonus money. So let me ask you a question. Do you have any idea how many children in Alabama that leave the foster care system leave because they're adopted by relatives?
I'm going to say probably a very low amount. I would think you would want to keep them in the family unless you have a weird family.
So, but yeah, so you would want to keep them in the family. But this is those who leave foster care because they're adopted by family members, less than 1%.
Oh, wow.
They either age out or they are adopted by strangers.
Okay.
Is
All
very,
right.
very common.
Okay, so I wanted to mention this. So I've interviewed someone who is with Family Services of Alabama, and so we were talking about kids who are captured and they're brought into sex slavery and all that terrible stuff. So I mentioned to this lady that oh, that's not happening around here. That's not happening in my area. And she said, "Are you kidding me?" She said, "It's all over." She said, "It's not just Chicago. It's not just a big town city somewhere. It's right here." So I mean, what has happened? It's like an explosion of mistreating children.
Yes. Okay. So some of the stats nationally, only less than 16% of children are taken for reasons of any kinds of abuse. Less than 16%. That other 84% can be neglect, that can be nebulously defined. It could be somebody that's running a meth house. It could be somebody that's doing really bad drugs or whatever. But it could be something as simple as having goldfish crackers on the floor in front of the TV that didn't get cleaned up. And I've seen that.
That would have happened
Neglect
a
can
lot in
be,
my family.
yeah, neglect can be things that normal families do. And it can and does happen. Only 17% of the
Whatever
allegations.
needs to happen. If you need to have a reason.
Yeah, they're fishing expeditions. Only 17% of these allegations are even substantiated. But what happened was this grandmother of the baby, Kathy Hall, became really good friends with this lady. Now, if you're from Arkansas, you might really recognize her. This is Senator Linda Collins Smith from Arkansas, who was murdered in 2019. But that year before that, the grandmother and the senator became really good friends, and they were working together. They were working together on border security and illegal immigration and child protective services. What Kathy didn't realize was that the senator was already looking into child protective services and the money. So there was a missing money. They found a second set of books in Arkansas. They found all kinds of stuff. But what they uncovered, she was about to expose on a Friday on a radio show, talk show, but she was murdered the Tuesday before that. It was the connection, strong connection between child protective services and foster care system and child sex trafficking. In 2018, the Department of Justice said, and I'll never forget this, I read this statement and it is seared into my brain, that the largest supplier of children for the child sex trafficking industry here in America is the foster care system. Shocking. It's shocking. So you probably saw Sound of Freedom, right? The movie. Yeah, we all loved. I mean, it was because it exposed something. But again, it's over there. It's over there. But if you listen, they said, well, this child could be in Los Angeles. This child could be, and he did list some places in America. It could be Moscow, but it could be America. And America, and they did say this, is the largest consumer of child sex trafficking. So it's happening. But one of the things, and it's the tagline on the book at the back, it says that Senator Linda Collins Smith said to Kathy Hall, she said, nobody's looking for these kids. So if you think about it, they're in the system, they've been taken from parents, and they're in the system, and they're adopted out. Or once the parents' rights are terminated to that child, they can't look for them anymore. They're told they can't have anything to do with those children. So and they think that they're being adopted by maybe a nice, wonderful family. And some of them are. There are wonderful adopted families. I know this. There are wonderful foster parents, but there are some that are insidious. There are some who are pedophiles that adopt and are trafficked.
That's very scary.
I did a story in 2018 of a girl a mother whose child was medically kidnapped, and then her story was that she was adopted as an infant by sex traffickers, and she was trafficked her whole childhood. Another thing that we found is Los Angeles. There was a year, and the mainstream media reported this, that they had a list of all their approved foster parents, and then they had a list of registered sex offenders. There were 1,000 names that were on both of those lists.
That's uncalled. I've got to tell you something that happened here in my area in DeKalb County. So I was speaking with someone from the sheriff's office, and I said, "Well, it's probably not so." Another person in my area, he said, "It's probably." I said, "It's probably not that bad here." And he said, "Let me tell you what happened." One of the deputies, because we have I-59, which goes from Birmingham, goes to Chattanooga. It's one of the therapies right here for trafficking kids. The same as I-20.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got Birmingham to Atlanta, so you've got that long interstate right there. So he stopped somebody that were speeding. Then he got suspicious because there was three girls in the back, looked like they were under teenage years, and they were crying, they were freaked, they couldn't speak English. So he goes on ahead and arrests him. So they find an interpreter for the girls, and they told that they had been brought here, were told that they would have a much better life.
Yeah. Right.
These little girls were sex slaves, under 12 years old, in our area.
I wish it were not common, but it's becoming more and more common. And and one of the things I even point out in the book with illegal immigration, when they're coming over illegally, we think that parents in America have a hard time fighting for their children coming home. Imagine if you're here illegally, you don't have all the documentation, you don't have access to an attorney, you don't have all of these things, and your child is taken by Child Protective Services and then trafficked and they disappear. You likely won't see that child
And you're
again.
trying to keep your existence quiet because you're not here legally.
Right. So it's a disservice to them. It's not only, okay, they're coming over illegally and all of the things that we hear about, but it's also a disservice to them.
You just given
They
me
are
something
being
new
lied
to
to.
think about.
Yeah.
You do. I think of all kinds of issues. Okay, my daughter-in-law's from Russia.
Oh, wow.
My daughter-in-law was brought here when she was 9 years old by the most wonderful family on earth. As a matter of fact, I tell my son, "You're lucky to be in that family. They're much better people than we are." And they're wonderful folks. So Debbie and Jim go to Russia, and the place these kids are staying, it's just a terrible place. She said it's not much different than a chicken house that we can see here. And she said the thing I remember about it is they were in a dark room. Is it like a real long room, almost like the size of a chicken house. And she said they had drop lights, like they had back in the old days. And they were really high up. So the kids, if they were afraid at night, they couldn't turn a light on. They were stuck in the dark. So what happens? They're there to adopt a baby, like just a few weeks old. But two little girls are following them around. And so she goes to the administrator's office, and she said, "Who are the two little girls who keep following us around?" And now this is back in the 80s. So you couldn't do this now. So she said, "Well, they're sisters of the baby you're adopting."
Oh.
So they get to the hotel room, and Debbie says, "Jim, you know what I want to do?" He said, "I was afraid of this." He said, "But you can only limit you to 3. We can't take all the children. You can't take them all." So they did adopt them. But this is what she was telling me. No English. And she said, "No, Larissa was the oldest one. That's my daughter-in-law. I call her my daughter-in-love." And she said, she was afraid because they could only do sign language with each other. All she knew was Russian. So they come in, park the car, get inside, go through the garage, and they flip this light switch. Larissa had never seen a light switch before. It just amazed her. So she was just taken back at and then she was afraid to touch it. And then they kept trying to get her hand over there to touch it. So she finally goes and touches it all night long. She's running up and down the stairs, going to every room, turning on the light switches. She speaks English. She knows more history than we do, and I know a lot because I'm a study of history. And she loves America, and she loves being an American citizen. My husband's birthday is on October the 2nd, and they celebrate my husband's birthday and her becoming a U.S. citizen on October the 2nd.
Wow.
So coming in the right way has its advantages.
Right.
They're huge.
Yes.
So, it's just you need to come in the right way. If nothing else, for protection of your children, for goodness sakes.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things, that's something nobody's really talking about.
Well, we need to talk about it a lot. So, now there are some points. Now, because I could get started talking about Larissa, the whole show would come in. She's just my love. And so, you mentioned something about federal incentives. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so we talked about the Adoption and Safe Families Act, and there's that federal money. There's CAPTA, which came the year after Roe v. Wade, so 1974, CAPTA, the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, and that started Child Protective Services as we know. That started the funding. Well, if you look, and we've gone to D.C. and we've talked with legislators, and this friend of mine, Connie, regularly with Family Forward Project, and we talk about her in the book, talks about, she has this diagram, and it shows the money that is this little bitty, tiny little purple box that shows the Title IV-B money that is the incentive for keeping families together, working with them, maybe drug treatment or maybe some housing assistance, or if they need help with their electric bill or something like that, the things to keep them together. But then there's this huge box of Title IV-E money, that's CAPTA, that is at least 10 times what the B money is, and there's no limit on it. They can take this billions of dollars that come into the states and funding foster care and all the different programs. They say that for every child taken into foster care, there's like 48 jobs that depend on that one child that are paid for the like you've got your judge, your social worker, GAL, transporter, counselor. I mean, all of that, and there's so much money. So there's federal incentives, and then what we found out with the medical stuff, medical kidnapping, if a child is in foster care, if they are a ward of the state, they can legally be used for medical research, medical drug testing, essentially as a lab rat without their parents' knowledge or consent.
Oh, that makes me want to cry.
And I've done many stories where a child would come into a hospital, a medically complex child, or a child, the parents trying to find out what's going on, and just so happens that somebody at that hospital is doing a medical research study with that condition that child just happens to have, so they find an excuse to take custody of that child and put them in their medical research study. Because most parents really don't want your children to be a medical lab rat. But we, after the Holocaust, we put in place the Nuremberg Code, right, to say that you can't do medical experimentation on people without their consent. So the way that they bypass this is the judges or the social workers give consent instead for these children to be medical lab rats.
And they're paid, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to check some bank accounts.
Right. So if I know with the parents, sometimes I've seen parents, spend $100,000 trying to get their child back. But then if they've got a child that is in a research study, they may be worth millions of dollars to a pharmaceutical company. That parent, I don't care how rich they are, they don't have enough money to fight the Child Protective Services, the government, and the pharmaceutical company. They don't have, no parent has that kind of money.
No, I mean, this is disheartening. This is the first time I've ever been speechless on a show. I mean, you suspect things are happening. You suspect it because, again, you always follow the money. But I want to ask you, because I've been targeted before, because I'm conservative.
Yeah, and that happens.
Okay, you know what my question is. How many conservatives are targeted with false information? They did not do whatever.
When I first started this research, I noticed like the first year was like Christian families I was like, overwhelmingly this was Christian families I was dealing with. I'm like, these are good parents. These aren't the cult Christians, the ones that Christians in name only, who are using the name of God to do horrible things. These were genuine, loving, good parents and conservative, and they may not say that they're taking your child because you're a conservative. Like,
what are some key words that they use for their benefit? Just to kind of set you back a little bit.
Good question. So I've learned, if I see a news story, and there are multiple fractures in various stages of healing, including rib fractures, I know right away that is, the chances are like 95% that is an innocent parent with a child with a medical condition. like osteogenesis imperfecta, things that I learned about.
Because some people bruise easily.
Yes, there are medical
My husband
conditions.
does. People probably think I beat up on him, but he just bruises really easily.
Right. Well, and the stories where we see the shaken baby or the brittle bones conditions, they don't have bruising a lot of times. It's broken bones. There's no organ injury or anything like that, and there's no history of violence. There's, they're the sweetest, most gentle people that everybody knows. Because I would go and I would interview other people that knew them. Are they blowing smoke? Or they fooling everybody? And they weren't. They were genuinely good people that had a medically complex child or somebody with a rare medical condition, or even like vitamin D rickets. I mean, you think about rickets used to be really common, and then we've got vitamin D milk and stuff, but we've also got, our kids don't go outside. Our pregnant moms are inside, maybe in an office, not outside, not getting vitamin D. And infantile rickets does happen, but they're not looking at that. And so in our hospitals, in our children's hospitals, and every parent needs to be aware of this, there are these doctors that are called child abuse pediatricians. Now, I don't get into that in the book, but I've done a ton of research. That's going to be my next major book. It's going to be on child abuse pediatricians. And they're in every children's hospital. And what they do is their job is to determine whether something is abuse or whether it's a real medical condition, which sounds great, except they're funded through Health and Human Services. And they're not funded like regular doctors. And what they do is they are acting as part of the prosecution, building a case against parents. They have confirmation bias, so they find abuse many times when there's not, and they're not doing what they call in medicine a differential diagnosis to see what it actually is. So there's times when I'd have somebody with the child abuse pediatrician saying it's abuse, only can be abuse, this is abuse. And then I would have medical reports from real experts that would say, no, this isn't abuse, this is a medical condition, this child has a real medical condition. But those would be all swept away and ignored. Even I had as many as a dozen real medical experts that would say it's not abuse, and it would be ignored because the child abuse pediatrician, with a vested financial interest in finding abuse, would say it's only abuse.
Reminds me of the jab. And yes, I've got kicked off several times, and I'll get kicked off again, but it reminds me of the jab. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's go ahead and cut into a commercial break. We're just a little bit behind, but that's okay. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At LaPoint Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at LaPoint's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with LaPoint's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. Jeff McCurdy of the McCurdy Law Firm has been a public service of this area for over 10 years. McCurdy, a member of the Henniger City Council, serves as prosecutor for the town of Sylvania and was named public defender for the city of Rainsville. The McCurdy Law Firm is located at 17326 Alabama Highway 75 in Henniger to better represent his Jackson and DeKalb County clients. If you need to be represented by a true public servant with proven success, call Jeff at 256-996-8701 or send a private email to mccurdylawfirm@gmail.com. No representation is made that the legal services performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers. The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018.
Good afternoon. We're back. My name is Donna, and I am your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. And we're here to get that truth out. This is something that's been eating at me for a long time. I've got a book right here. It's called Voices That Will Not Be Silenced by Terri LaPoint. And you've got to get it. You can come right here to the Gaston Mall and order it through Books A Million. So go ahead and check it out. And you'll get a good deal, too, by the way. You can also get a card where you get some points off. And so I beg you do it. Come to Books A Million to do it right here at Gadsden, or you can do it online, right? Mm-hmm. Do you have a website?
I do. realnewsspark.com, and you go /book // That's another way that you can get it, but realnewsspark.com.
You've got to get this book and get the education out there. You know, there's some things we suspect as we go through life, and something just doesn't look right. And I had one of those weird families when I was growing up, and I promise you, you can put me in a room with 1,000 kids. I'll pick the ones that are having family issues. I just know I can detect it. But there are things that I've just noticed, just illegal folks coming in. You know, and we love everybody. We want everybody
absolutely.
I love my daughter-in-law. My goodness. All kinds of Russian dishes. I mean, this girl right here is just full of great information. I worry about your kids, you know, and what's happening, because you'd be such an easy target. You know, there's no record of you. You're illegal. There's no record. It would be such an easy thing to do. I know you had quite a few things that you wanted to cover, so we pretty much will let you go for it. What you would like to talk about. First of all, the book, where you can find it. We covered that. But I'm going to hold it up. You need to get this book.
So it's a true story. All of it's true, well documented. this senator, Linda Collins Smith from Arkansas, was, I remember when she was murdered, there were people saying, they were saying there were rumors that she was investigating Child Protective Services, and then they were saying, oh, no, she wasn't, no, she wasn't. Well, yes, she was, and I've got tons of documentation that she was very much investigating that. And she found, I'm just going to say there's a computer involved. You got to read the book. There is a computer. I think Hunter Biden's laptop. Think the different laptops. If you think of all those things, there are commonalities with a computer in this book that she got a hold of, and it may have a lot to do with what happened to her. I know they were trying to get it back, but I also know where it is, and you can find out in the book. And there needs to be a demand for where is this computer and why don't we have access to it? Because she was about to reveal a bunch of stuff that she had found that show monetary, financial connections, names, places, dates that showed a solid connection between Child Protective Services and the foster care adoption industry and child sex trafficking through the courts. They were literally being there was a judge, and you'll find out in the book who that judge is. That his information is on there. There were photos, there were pictures that she recognized as his office in the courthouse. Yeah, his office in the courthouse with him doing things with children that were.
I'm sorry, that is one sin I would never forgive. I just, I'm just a human. I wouldn't be able to do that.
It is the reason she divorced her husband. Her husband was the judge, but I guess I will go and tell you. Her ex-husband.
There was a lot of suspicion about him on that. I remember. I watched a 2020 segment about her.
Yeah. They did a really good job. Dateline, not so much, but I don't know if I can say that out loud. But anyway, there was, So Kathy Hall, the grandmother, was really good friends with her. I've got text messages. Facebook and Twitter posts. She was very active on Twitter, especially. It's X now, but it was Twitter at the time. And she was digging into a lot of this. I've got interviews that I've transcribed interviews, a Judiciary Committee hearing. There's a chapter in here of a Judiciary Committee hearing, and it's not boring. It's actually quite interesting, and it tells a lot of stuff that she was digging into. So she was very much digging into this.
It turned into her world.
It really did. It really did. What they found was the media at the time. You got to remember, this was during the Trump presidency, and so everybody was interested in talking about the border security and the angel moms, angel families, and illegals. But they could find very little media that was really willing to talk about what was happening with Child Protective Services. So the things that they were digging into, I mean, they never stopped. They never stopped digging into it and exposing. And one of the things that she said was the things that she found that she was about to reveal just before she was murdered. She said this would bring down the entire Child Protective Services industry. And it's all on that computer. It's all there.
Why do you think they destroyed it? I mean,
no,
okay, so I'm a techie person. And so my husband and I used to own an internet service back in the day, back when it was dial-up. You remember those dial-ups? Yeah, well, we owned one of those. And we thought we were going wild. When we stopped 28 baud modem with 56K, we thought we were all that in a bag of chips. So I do know a little bit, and there's something I do know, that there is a part in that computer. You can smash it with an axe, but there is a small part in that computer that you can't get rid of. It's always going to be there. So whatever dumpster you take it to, somebody can find it.
Well, and I found the search warrants, and we know what department has that computer. And the thing is, she was smart. I don't know if you can tell on here. She's standing beside a car, and the license plate's blurred out, of course. But she would make copies of things, and she'd send it to like with that picture. She said, send it to your friend and tell them to send it to 3 friends and tell them to send it to 3 friends. That way somebody will know where we are. And so she was like that. She made copies of things, and she would send them to people, and no 2 people knew who all had them. So there are copies of this stuff out there. And one of these days, somebody's going to be brave enough to bring it to their attention. They've probably been scared to, but there are copies, and nobody knows who has them. I don't know who has them. there's copies of this out there.
Let me ask you a question because I think there needs to be an age limit for kids who get on Facebook and any kind of social media site. I just think they're too young for some of this stuff. And I've seen kids who, send messages, freaky people who want to be friends with you on Facebook. By the way, this is a clue. If they have no friends coming with you and they only have one, there's only pictures of them, it's probably a fraud. And if immediately when you accept them, they start sending you messages like how beautiful you are, and all those things, it's going to be a fraud. So be really, really careful out there. What are some things parents can do?
Good question.
For
Excellent
goodness
question.
sakes?
Okay, so do not put pictures of your children, especially little ones. Don't put them public on any social media.
I mean, share it with your friends. You can do that.
Yes,
You can have only
but
a
make
select
sure that
group
you
of
tell
people.
grandma, because grandparents can be the worst offenders. The parents may have their Facebooks locked down, but grandparents are like, oh, look at my grandbaby, and they've got their little
Right.
picture of Don't do it. Don't do it publicly. Because, and I, back when I was doing medical kidnap stuff, I had so many parents who would say that they found where their social worker was literally shopping social media looking for children that they could take. They're looking, that we've got somebody, and I've heard whistleblowers have said this. We need a blonde hair, blue eye, 3-year-old little girl. And so they would go and they'd literally search social media and even ride around neighborhoods looking for children that they could target and make up allegations. Because, we have anonymous call ins about allegations. A social worker can make those and nobody knows. And it can be as false. I mean, so many times the allegations, they're false against parents. They're made up. It's just made up. So parents, don't put that on Facebook. Know your rights. Lock your door and make sure that if someone does come to your house, make sure that they have a court order or a warrant. The Constitution does require that. If you homeschool, get with a group, either Homeschool Legal Defense or even, I really like Heritage Defense. Both of those are amazing organizations and just to have a lawyer that you can call and say, I've got a social worker at my door. What do I do? Don't let them in. You can hold your child up to the window and say, this is my child. See, there's no bruising anywhere.
There are things you can do.
There are things you can do. Don't make yourself a target. In the hospital, just simple drugs. Drugs make you a target. If you've got kids, please do everything you can to help yourself to get off of that.
That's what I'm hearing in DeKalb County that's happening, and probably Marshall County and all around the whole world, is people who are on drugs and they're selling their children.
Yeah,
And they get them back, but they'll sell them so they can get some more drugs.
yeah, and that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that we find is sometimes that the children that are taken, the ones who are truly being abused, they keep getting put back, or they don't get taken, or they get those kids back. But the ones who come from loving families, a lot of times they don't get those kids back, and those kids are taken. They're compliant. They're like, oh, well, you're saying I have to do this. And so they don't fight. They don't know their rights. They don't stand up for their constitutional rights that are there for a reason. And then they think, well, it's just going to blow over. We're going to go to court and it's all going to get straightened out. And then it doesn't. So become wise. There's groups like Family Forward Project.
You got help. You got support. You have to just don't get the wrong support. So, and I keep going back to illegal families. I love illegal folks. I really do. My daughter-in-law, again, she's an American citizen. I fear for them. I probably more than any other group. And I'm thinking language barrier, where you can't speak English and somebody comes to you that want to take your kids and you don't know what to say. I mean, there's this language barrier thing going out there. Become a citizen. That's all I ask you to do, because you're going to have protection. What are some things they can do other than become a citizen?
Yeah, and network. Like when I mentioned Family Forward Project, there's groups online. If you go on Facebook, is really good. Don't put all your information out there, but use wisdom. But there's a Family Forward Project group for every single state, and there are people that are posting information. Connect with other parents. Find out. Be aware. When I first started doing these stories, parents were like, there was so much shame. They had never told anybody their real story, or then they're just like, because everybody
can't believe them either.
Yeah, Right. They're not going to believe me, or they're going to say I must have done something wrong, and that's a real common thing. But now there's so many of these stories that are out there that people realize maybe you didn't do anything wrong. Like watch Take Care of Mine on Netflix. I highly recommend that documentary because it is a classic medical kidnap story. And that family won an award of I don't remember how many hundreds of millions of dollars against the Children's Hospital.
So
And
there was
Child
a
Protective.
good judge
It
made
was
sure
it was
that
a good
happened.
judge.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a good judge. So
So there's
it
hope.
was but the things that the trauma they went through was unbelievable. But it's so common. I mean, there's every single detail, every fact in that movie. I've done at least one, if not dozens, of articles on. So it's all so true. It's very, very true. There are some bills. Can I talk about that real quick?
Yes. Yes.
So work on legislation in Alabama. I know that this next year, the Representative Kenneth Pascal is planning on introducing a bill that is essentially Miranda rights for families. And that bill, I've looked at what he's got in there, and it's so good. It's like, oh my gosh, if they'd been doing this, this story would never have needed to been written. If they'd been doing this story would not have been needed to be written. So it's really good information in this bill. So when this comes next legislative session, we need to get behind it and support it. Then on the federal level, we've been fighting against CAPTA and ASFA, trying to defund all of those, but those things are big monsters and big bears, and it's, hundreds and hundreds of
there for sure.
But we came up with an idea, actually Connie, I think this was Connie's idea, Connie Regulate, and for an advocate, a family advocate. And so Representative Barry Moore from Alabama is the sponsor.
Okay.
Yes, he's taken the lead. It's not been filed yet because we're working on getting sponsors and co-sponsors and co-lead. We've got a Democrat co-lead, so it's a bipartisan bill because this affects both sides. It really does.
It most certainly does.
When they come after your kids, people don't care what party you are. It's irrelevant.
Right.
They're just wanting their kids home. So, but this bill says, that if the state takes this Title 4B money, which all of them do, then they would have to permit an advocate. So we want to, if you can talk to your legislator, tell them you want them to support this bill, you can contact me and give you the information. And I'm on Facebook, Terri LaPoint, Terri with an I. You can find me, find Family Forward. We can tell you how to connect with your legislators because we need to get that bill passed. If parents had that advocate there by their side, telling them their rights and saying, calm down, it's going to take a deep breath because it's a terrifying time.
Oh, but imagine it is.
Beyond terrifying.
Oh.
So an advocate can really help.
Absolutely. And you've got them out there. You just need to search in the right places. Terry would be your first point right there, your first stop right there as well. I can't say this enough. Become an American citizen, and you're going to have the support you need, and you won't have to wonder anymore. You won't have to worry. Let's say if you don't speak English, someone is speaking English, please go to these folks and please tell them what they can do because we want you here. We really do, just the right way. Absolutely. So this it's just I can only imagine the fear because I remember Adam, the movie Adam. And my son was born about the year that movie came out. And so my parents came over. They wanted to keep Brad. He was just still a baby. And I wouldn't let them. They said, we're not going to let anything happen to him. And I said, but I just saw this movie, Adam. Not this weekend. Let me get over this movie. You've got to be aware of your kids. You can't let them. I mean, you got to give them room to breathe. They have to breathe. They have to do that. But I've seen a lot of folks, their children are, and this is what really gets me, is when you go to Walmart or whatever and you leave your kid in the car, don't do that, especially this time of the year. It's just too hot outside. But I've seen people who are not watching their kids. It takes a second for somebody to grab your kid and run off with them.
Yeah.
How can we, without hovering over your children, because they've got to grow and they've got to learn, they've got to experience things, but how can you make sure they're safe?
One, you pray. I mean, seriously, just pray. I pray for angels for God to put angels around my kids. I have no shame about putting a leash on a kid. I mean, if you've got a kid, I mean, seriously,
I did that,
what,
and Mother thought that's just a little too
people
much.
do. They may not think you're being very nice, but if you've got a kid that runs off,
And mine was friendly, speaking to everybody.
mhm,
And I would say, don't speak to strangers. You just speak to people coming in out of wherever.
right, right. Another thing you can do is teach your kids to, how we talk about how you see on the detective shows, people lawyer up when
Yeah.
they're talking, so that you have a right to not be questioned without an attorney. Teach your children that they have the right to parent up when they're in school. That if a social worker or somebody comes, or the counselor, and is asking them questions and about their family, they have a right to say, I'm not talking to you. Because a lot of times those are still fishing expeditions. The most common time for Child Protective Services to take children out of the whole year is the first 6 weeks of school, with teachers reporting kids. And there are good teachers. And I got something, a teacher in Alabama sent me something where they had some training a couple years ago to about what to look for. And there was things like, you call DHR if a child comes with inappropriate clothing or whatever, like they're not wearing a coat and it's cold. I'm like, I had brothers, and they would literally hide their coat in the bushes before they get on the bus.
That's my son, hot natured.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
For some reason, it's not cool for a guy to wear a coat at school. I don't know what the
right.
deal is.
But that is grounds for them
Uh-huh.
for the school to report you to Child Protective Services. Did you know that? That's insane. But it happens. So the teachers, who are wonderful, good people, sometimes, many times, they're just trying to do the right
I think they're
thing.
doing nothing.
Right. They will call and they'll say, well, they're going to do the investigation, and I'm just covering my butt. I'm just, this. I know this isn't a big deal. I know the parents are great. There's no abuse here, but I got to call. All that got the foot in the door, and those kids
Yeah.
may be taken. And then I hear teachers say that everybody knows little Susie over here is being abused, and we've called, and they don't do anything about it. And you know why that is? You remember that federal funding we were talking about? They're looking for adoptability. I've seen several cases where the judge literally uses that word. Is the child adoptable? They're looking
That's a
for
key
children.
word.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is very much a key word. Adoptable. They are looking for a child that they can adopt out and get that bonus money for, because it comes into the state. They don't have to use it for the child. They can use it for whatever they want to in the state budget. So they're looking for adoptability. Children who are truly abused are considered to be, as disgusting as it sounds, the ones who really need help. They're considered by the system to be damaged goods who are unadoptable. But there's children who are loved, the little kids that comes all dressed up and is nice and clean and all of that. They are considered adoptable. They're highly desirable by the
It's
system.
given me a whole new look on things. For decades, and I think this is probably part of the system, and everybody knows what I mean when I say part of the system. So there are terms that are used like, don't get involved, that's none of your business. But when is it good to be a nosy neighbor?
Okay, so sometimes a nosy neighbor will call, and they on something that's really innocent, or
Okay.
they misunderstood or something like that, and then it backfires, and these kids are taken because of a nosy neighbor who should have kept their mouth shut, because it wasn't really a big deal. Um, if the child is truly being abused, here's something you got to remember. Children in foster care are at least 6 times more likely to be abused, molested, raped, or killed than children left in their own home, even if that home is a troubled home. So if, as a neighbor, you see something that's concerning, if, as a relative, you see something that's concerning, as a church member, can you go to that parent and say, this is concerning, is there something, do you need some help? Can we help you? Is there, I'm concerned about this, out of compassion, is because you've got to recognize that if you call in Child Protective Services, the very thing that you are trying to prevent may be what you just caused. You may have taken a child who may have had a rough day, may have had mama yelled, Maybe mama get lost her temper,
Mhm.
but then you're sending that child to be trafficked.
But there are some people who will call because the kid is eating a cookie instead of eating a piece of celery or something.
Right.
So you got
Yes.
those as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, you'll hear people are called because they send their kids to public school, or they homeschool, or they vaccinate, or they don't vaccinate, or they home birth, or they don't home birth, and they have a hospital birth, or they're breastfeeding, or they're formula feeding. You're going to find social workers and neighbors and relatives who disagree with all of those things. This is America. These are called choices. These are called choices. We should have the free will to do that. And I have the right to disagree with you, and you have the right to disagree with me, but let's not have your kids taken because we disagree. That's insane, but that's where we are. I mean, all you have to do is look at the Trump case in New York and see how the political court system is. Yes, what I'm hearing from families all over America is what's happening to Trump is exactly what they see happening in family court, but it's behind closed doors, so nobody realizes it's happening all over America. It's not just the Trump case. It's not just now. It's been going
And
on
it's
for a
going to get
while, and it's
worse.
all over America. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to ask you this. I know you love to speak, and I love your passion. I mean, I just think I'm so glad I got to know you. You're going to be on the show a lot. So let's. Where do you speak? Or will you do? Can people request you to come and
Yes,
speak at a
yes.
group?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Terri LaPoint. Voices.realnewspark at proton.me, and I can send you
Yeah,
that
send
link.
it to me,
So
and I'll get
that's
that
a
out there.
that's a way to email me. But I speak a lot at Republican women's groups. I'm speaking this Thursday night at a
But
friend's Bible study.
Democrats need to get her out there too. I mean, the
Yes,
kids are kids. It
yes,
doesn't
yes,
matter.
absolutely, absolutely. Eagle Forum, church groups, civic groups, wherever. I will come and speak. If it's driving distance, I'll be there. And if it's Arizona, if they can get pay to get me there, I'll go. I've covered a lot of Arizona stories. I just need the transportation covered. I need to be able to offer the books for sale, and then I will come because this issue is so important, and most people don't realize what's going on right under our noses. Another place that on July the 11th, the Republican Women of Trustful is hosting a dinner called Voices of Freedom Dinner, and we're covering the topic of trafficking. So Kathy Hall, the grandmother in the book, is coming down. She is our keynote speaker.
So I have to be there.
It's going to be wonderful. Tickets are $50, but we have to know by July the 2nd. It's going to be catered by Tam Burroughs,
Well,
wonderful
do it
Italian
now because you're
restaurant.
like me. You'll get busy. You'll start doing stuff and you'll forget. So now's the time going ahead and do
Right.
it.
And you can email me or
Get in
get
contact
in
with me and I'll get the information.
Right. There you go. But the dinner is going to be great. We're going to have Jared Hudson with Covenant Rescue Group is speaking, and also Representative Donna Gibbons, who sponsored the Sound of Freedom bill and that law. So
It's
we've
chock
got
full
some
of
great
great,
speakers.
great folks out there. Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about the book again. And you can get right here. Come to Books A Million, right near the Gadsden Mall. You'll be able to order this book. They have some out there. I don't know. You just have to come and order it. It won't take long to get it. They do a great, great job on delivery. And it's an easy read book too, I'm seeing.
People are telling me they're reading it overnight. I mean, or not overnight, or in one day. I mean, or they're reading it. It's a fast read.
Probably you wouldn't be able to put this book down. I'm just telling you.
It's got a lot of twists and turns,
And it's the truth.
and it's the truth. It's all true.
This would be a great book to buy for a new mom, new dad. This would just be a baby coming along. Your grandkids, grandmas need to read this, okay?
Yes.
Because like you mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, sometimes we start bragging about grandkids, just put stuff out there that don't need to be.
That doesn't need to be out there. Can I show you one of my favorite parts of the book? That it's right here at the end. The first appendix is God's heart for. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know, probably not. But anyway, God's heart for families, and it is a bunch of scriptures for families
Great.
that are going through. They're fighting for their families, and then it's got a place with a bunch of lines here where they can write their own scriptures, what God speaks to their heart, and hold on to what God says. This is one of the keys that I found for families getting their kids back is you hold on to the promises of God no matter what. You never give up. Never give
The
up.
enemy wants you to give up.
Yep.
Absolutely. We're going to have to call it today. Can you believe how fast time went? And thank you for watching. Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you. Thank you so much for having
Absolutely
me.
awesome. Well, we're gonna have a series here. I mean, I can see it coming. I know you're gonna really love this as well. But thank you again so much for watching. Send the emails. I know you're gonna have lots of questions, and I'll save those and put those in a file for the next time Terry's on the show. Donna at donnasedge.com, and I'll get those questions for her too, so she can get some answers for you. Donna at donnasedge.com. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a super duper awesome rest of the day. Thank you again, Terry.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Y'all take care.